Hello, this is AnlineOffline. Welcome back to another casual quick guide to Call of Duty Mobile. For today's video, we'll be covering the MG42. Introduced in Season 4 of 2024, the Maschinengewehr 42 is an automatic general-purpose machine gun infamous for its fast fire rate. It's a German design that has been playable in the multiplayers of World at War, World War II, and Vanguard. Its older brother, the MG34, was usable in the multiplayers of United Offensive, COD 3, and 2019. Previous conflicts in Europe and Africa led many to believe that World War I would be short. Instead, machine guns and artillery ended thousands of years of battlefield cavalry and made crossing no man's land a death sentence. New tactics arose to challenge this deadlock, and advancements in tanks were eventually able to break through. In this infant meta of combined arms, machine gunners too had to become mobile. The Treaty of Versailles aimed to ensure Germany's military would never again pose a threat, but that didn't stop engineers from experimenting. After the Nazis annexed its neighbors and escalation seemed unavoidable, they took what they learned from fighting tanks to guarantee World War II would be fought at a faster pace. The MG34 was the first of its kind to fulfill a universal role, combining the maneuverability of an automatic rifle with the suppressive firepower of a heavy machine gun. It was deployed in fortifications, vehicle mounting, or as the center of a 10-man squad. However, it had its downsides. It would jam from weather or debris. It was also complex and costly. Germany lacked resources, and the Allies weren't making things easy. Non-firearms companies were approached for their knowledge of stamping sheet metal to design a prototype that under Grossfuss culminated in the MG42 as its successor. Spandau, Treppe Spritze, Hitler's buzzsaw. These are a few of the nicknames for the MG42, which had an even faster fire rate than the 34 and could be mass-produced. The Americans were trained by film to recognize and prepare against them, and the Allies were instructed to challenge it within a brief window of the barrel being changed. As effective as it was, this was not enough to fend off a war on two fronts. After the defeat, both the 42 and its squad doctrines were appropriated. The late MG45 and Sturmgewehr 44's roller-delayed blueback systems served as the basis for Setme and Heckler & Koch. The MG3 was a reverse-engineered 42 upgrade rechambered for 7.62 NATO. The M60 started as a copy in 30-06. The FN Mag and later Mini-Me combined elements of the 42 with the BAR. America adopted all three for decades. Back to mobile. Base damage per shot is low, killing 5 to 7 shots, but the MG42 is tied with the CX-9 for a fire rate of 1,034 rounds per minute. The bullet speed is also solid at 930 meters per second. Previously, the Holger had the lowest impact of all LMGs, but that now applies to the MG. In terms of time to kill, it will usually kill faster than average. Headshots are 30% extra damage. Just one is enough to extend its 5-shot potential into its second range, and an infinite 6-shot potential at long range. The chest and biceps are 10% extra, and aren't easily accessible unless from behind or from the sides. Moving on to barrels. The B42 barrel improves your bloom, recoil, range, and bullet speed, but it hurts your hipfire, strafe speed, and fire rate. For some reason, the Vanguard attachments don't specify percentages for attachments that change the fire rate. In the case for this barrel, it slows your intervals between shots by about 9%. The rapid barrel, on the other hand, shortens your interval by about 10%, but hurts your sprint out time and ruins your bloom. The recoil booster is the only muzzle that alters your fire rate, but hurts your bloom to a lesser extent. In terms of mobility, the nerfed MG42 is tied with the chopper for substandard base movement speeds. The base ADS time is still the second fastest in its class, but its sprint out time is tied with the chopper for the game's second slowest sprint out, only ahead of the HDR and Rytec. You can skip the sprint out delay with jump shots though. The nerfed raise time is now the second slowest in the game, just ahead of the PKM. The base pack size is the largest in the game with 125 rounds, and can be doubled to 250 or shortened to 100 for a faster reload. Speaking of which, reload cancelling is very slow, but not as miserable as the Bruen. The MG42 has two ammo conversions. First is the Japanese 6.5 Arisaka, which gives you a faster fire rate, much better bloom, less recoil, and slightly more mobility. However, this reduces your bullet speed, penetration, range, and removes your bicep multipliers, which didn't account for much anyway. It also gives you the lowest impact in the game. The other conversion is based on the anti-tank 13.2 Mauser, which increases range, bullet speed, vehicle damage, penetration, impact, and expanding its multipliers to include the forearms, giving you better odds of a shorter potential time to kill. This slows down your fire rate, movement, ADS, increases recoil, and destroys your bloom. As for accuracy, the MG's bloom is average, but since Vanguard is the only other COD with bloom in mind, the MG can achieve next to no bloom with its gunsmith. The initial hipfire spread is the best in the game. With its fire rate and large mag, you can outspray your enemies. With attachments, you can rival akimbo weapons and even burst your shots up to 30 meters. The iron sights are fine, but you can delete the model to make it look like the default RBD. Recoil is minimal even with attachments that affect its fire rate or recoil. Like the PKM, it has the flinch of an AR, but can achieve the lowest possible flinch of none. Lastly, it does share a couple of optics with the new machine pistol as part of the Vanguard gunsmith. So, what are my thoughts on the MG42? It is overpowered, and I have not felt guilty using a gun since 2021. Yes, the CBR4 may have been the longest reigning meta, but it was never so powerful that it brought Zimmer back to Call of Duty for a mythic theme. All these years of the devs slowly implementing things to slow the arcadey pace of mobile. This is a straw that broke the camel's back. The only relief is that it can't use 10 attachments like in Vanguard. It may have received nerfs that would have devastated any other gun, but it doesn't change how the MG42 usually plays. You can't swap or move as fast, just camp in a corner. 2 attachments got nerfed, just don't max out its fire rate for long range. You don't even need attachments to be effective. Comparing the MG42 is weird because there's no other low damage very fast firing LMG, so we'll stick with its fellow slow reloaders. Between the MG42 and the PKM, it's speed versus power. The PKM will usually kill faster, but the MG is more well-rounded, easier to use, and has better attachments. The PKM has some recoil to brace for, the MG doesn't. They have very similar reload times, but the MG has more ammo. The PKM has a faster sprint out, but the MG can negate it by bunny hopping. Compared to the Bruen, they have very similar time to kills. It can be used more effectively aggressively with box mags, but what holds the Bruen back is its miserable base reload and lack of spare ammo. What's clear is that the nerfs for the MG42 weren't enough. So what would I suggest? First, the ADS speed is too fast for its weight and should match the PKM. And second, either nerf the recoil like the S36 originally did, or give it the same bloom or worse, because the MG has no shortage of attachments for it. With this, you still have a fast firing, fast killing machine gun with the potential for no flinch. If you want to use it aggressively, you'd have to go all in on ADS time or hipfire. But hey, that's just my opinion. This has been a Casual's quick guide. Feel free to suggest what weapons you want to see covered next. My name is An, and I'm off.